Good morning, everybody. It's Ben Jones here, hanging out in my workshop. We're going to play with something new. It's the first day of February, 2021, and I really like my good old-fashioned Stanley lunchbox. It's a favorite. I use it not so much mostly for lunch, but it's one of my travel coffee kits. I can fit a bunch of good coffee stuff in there. It's ready to go. I'll pack a lunch once in a while. I also really like my Stanley thermos. Totally unaffiliated, by the way. We backdoor from Bronson. We don't have anything in with Stanley, except that we make coffee, and coffee goes great in the thermoses. And Stanley has started making. They have their own little pour over, so I thought we would give that a try. So let me pop this open and see what we have here. So in the box, they have the nice metal, because it's Stanley and it has a great Stanley green. Big container up top has some little marking lines for measuring water volumes. Then it comes with this filter bit. So it looks like that it would just screw in from the bottom. There's a rubber gasket there for water tightness. So we screw that in, and we now have a brew chamber with some type of media to remove the grounds from the beverage, filtering them out, and then lets it drip through. So I thought we'd play with this. So this, I imagine, would fit nicely on top of, there we go, that works just like that. So I can brew directly in. I think for this one though, I'm going to brew into my little decanter, just because I still want to use a scale because I want to control some of those variables. Let me turn this down a little bit so y'all can see. All right, so let's just get right to it. I'm just going to give that a little pre-rinse just to, rinse the dust out of there. Awesome. And for the coffee today, I actually am Goats. It's our house blend. We use it for nearly everything. If you go into one of our cafes, you'll find it as espresso. Pardon me a moment. You'll find it as espresso. You'll find it quite frequently on the it's one of the coffee selections. It's great in a French press, great as a pour over, great all around. So we're gonna try it here as a pour over. All right, I'm gonna start. So this is one of the things I want to talk about too, is kind of what's my process when I try out a new brewer. I don't expect this first cup to be amazing because I haven't been able to dial in the grind setting yet, but I have a coffee that I know Dancing Goats really well, and I just went ahead and ground it at medium, something that I would use for, for like a bee house pour over, V60 maybe, with a Kalita wave. Just kind of see what it does. All right, so first impression, when you drop that in, it just makes a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. Just gonna give it a little shake to kind of even it out. And this happens to be 20 grams of ground coffee, sorry, 21 grams of ground coffee. Just glad to pick something to go with. And let's see what this does. So tear that out, start my timer. And this is a drip through brewer, meaning that as I add water, it's going to want to drip through, and I don't know if you can see that happening. With drip through brewers, it is important to allow it some bloom time. Let the gases begin to escape from those beans before I move on and add more water. It's been about 30 seconds. I don't see any more activity in there. Good. So then from here, I'm just going to start bringing that around. And my target weight, I want to do about 350 grams of water for my final brew. It's interesting. This is kind of a donut shape because of that that filter in the middle. So I use a little different technique. It's just all pouring around the outside. I don't have anything on the inside. Let me just so I'm going to pour right down on that middle and let that cascade down Yeah, that really speeds up the brew, so I think I'm going to keep it around the edge. And if I add my water a little bit faster, bring it up to just over 300, and there we'll get a nice long steep. So this is the routine when we get a new brewer coming in. It's just toss in some coffee, try it out, make note of your grind size, make note of the little techniques we did. Like when I poured right down onto here, onto that filter, I could really tell that the flow rate into the cup sped up. So that suggests that all that water is coming right down the side of the filter and then going into the filter and not spending time with the coffee. So I'm going to return to pouring around the outside so that I don't disrupt the bed of coffee as much. There we go, 370 grams, a little overshot. I'm just going to let that sit there. And there we go. So you can see we got coffee filtering down and coffee just percolating there inside the brewer. All right, while that filters out, I'm about 2.5 minutes in. Could make an argument for a little bit coarser grind, especially considering that I did let some water pass through. It's taking a little bit longer than I typically like to see. But while that's percolating and draining down, let's talk a little bit about kind of, what's the point of this brewer. One nice thing, well, it's Stanley. So if you like Stanley, if you like the Stanley green, fits right in there, matches my my lunchbox, matches my thermos. We've got a good little aesthetic set, so that's fun. Another thing that's really nice about it, the filter and the brew device, it's all essentially one element. So you won't have to worry about filters. So if you're out camping, road tripping, wherever you might be taking this, you're going to have filtration with you, much like a French press. And however, it's metal construction, so you're not going to break it if you brought a French press along. That's kind of cool. So some nice real bonuses there. Speaking of metal on that filtration, that tells me that I should expect a lot more body and texture coming through in that cup, because the metal filtration allows more of the fine particles to pass through. The oils from the coffee bean get swashed into the beverage. That's just what we're going to expect from a metal filter. I'm sure there probably would be a way to rig this up to send it through a paper filter, but at that point, just bring along a little Melita cone or something of that sort. It has quite a large capacity. I could brew coffee for 2 or 3 people in there. We would have to, find the grind size that makes that work best, but that is an option. Yeah. We are about 4.5 minutes in, and I still have some drip through coming. So definitely on my next brew, I would take this and bring it up a couple clicks in coarseness. I don't really want to push, into the 5-minute zone with that grind size, that medium grind size. That tends to get a little bit over extracted. We tend to get some of those flavors of burnt matches, rubbing alcohol, astringency, things of that nature. So I'm going to go and pull this. Pardon me, I just need to reach and grab my... Need to get a little mug so I can put those things on there. Alright, I'm just going to pull that early. Alright, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but we have a nice, that has a nice thick body to it. I can see it's got some cloudy, there's some turbidity to that coffee water. I need to give this a little rinse. I did some working in my shop over the weekend, so there's a little bit of sawdust on a few things that I didn't expect to get sawdust on, so I wasn't doing a big job, just a little tiny bit. Alright, so I see there's a comment in here. Anna is saying something about, let me see if I can click that and get more of that comment. So Anna is saying she doesn't know if I've already mentioned what grind size used for that device, but let us know if it's similar to French press. So for this initial test, I went definitely finer than French press, a little bit more coarse than what I would use for a V60, so it's kind of on the coarser side of regular drip. On my next one, I would use probably Chemex grind just to see what that does. And it'll be a little bit more coarse. And as I pour that out, I can now really see, you can see some of that good artifact in the bottom, the kind of thing that you would expect out of metal filtration. So we have a competent cup of coffee. That works. And here's the part that I was really nervous about. This is the part that was really kind of made me a little apprehensive about this one. That's just a messy cleanup. It's gonna take a lot of water. So I would take this and I'm gonna knock that out into my compost real quick. Pardon me a moment. Knock it out into the compost, then I just have a bunch of the sludge left. So that's, you know, a little bit messy. Then I'll take a towel, I'm going to unscrew the filter. So I want to just take that, toss that in some water, and give that a good rinse. Not impossible to clean up, but yeah, it's a little more mucking out than I tend to go for. Yeah. First review. It's adequate. It makes a cup of coffee. That'll work. Yeah, we're a little bit over extracted. So definitely, if you're tasting over extraction, those would be flavors of if it tastes like a burnt match. If you're tasting bitterness that is much more carbony based, so burnt matches, burnt toast. If it feels like you swallowed an aspirin but it didn't do very well, so a lot of that coating dissolved, if you're getting that, those are keynotes of over extraction. That means that my grind size was too small for the amount of time the grounds were in contact with water. So after I clean this up, I'll come back and I'll do a round two. Probably not today. I might do it maybe tomorrow. I would try it with a little more coarsely ground coffee. Try to speed up the brew, give a little less contact time, try to bring that extraction down. So yeah, it works. I still think overall for the Stanley products, if I had to rate these three that I have, my favorite is still the lunchbox, then the thermos, then I would honestly be using probably my AeroPress to make some coffee, or a Chemex. And then this brewer, it would work if you're a big fan of the Stanley line. That's a fun little pour over machine that matches everything. Otherwise, for me, it's just a little too messy. That's kind of my big complaint about it. So if you don't mind the mess, then go for it. All right. So thank you for joining. It's Ben Jones with Pout from Bronson Coffee. Again, we are not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with Stanley and Stanley gear. We just really happen to like coffee, and since they make a few articles and bits that connect with coffee, I'm happy to talk about those things. I really enjoy making these videos, so thank you all for joining us. Just gonna scroll to make sure nobody has. This is a very engaging group today, so I just want to make sure I'm answering questions. Thank you for the compliment on the camera placement. It's important to see the coffees. Speaking of coffees, we have to do the shameless plug. You can find our coffees, Dancing Goats blend and the Columbia Las Brisas, to name a few. We have a couple new ones. This is the Kenya and Darawini. Kenyan coffees are quite special. This one has some really great floral notes, nice apricots and kind of things of that sort. And then of course the Ethiopia Guji Shakiso. This is a natural processed coffee, meaning after the coffee was picked, the fruit stayed on that seed. And that coffee is going to have this really incredibly herbal and fruity tone. Pretty nice. Check it out. BadDwarfCoffee.com. I'll brew some of these up probably on Friday, and we'll talk more about them. Thanks for joining. Have a good week.